The retrofit. The Concordat shipyard loomed over Earth's first deep space vessel, like a chrome cathedral, its crystalline construction pods reflecting starlight in dazzling patterns. Inside Engineering Bay 7, Dr. Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display of the ESS Pioneer, trying to ignore the whispers and subtle sneers from the gathered Concordat engineers. "As you can see," she continued, gesturing to the ship's power distribution network, "we've implemented a distributed redundancy system that—" "Primitive," interrupted Chief Engineer Zixel, his crystalline form-shifting colors in what Sarah had learned was their equivalent of a dismissive eye roll. "Your species still relies on physical backup systems. The Concordat abandoned such inefficient designs centuries ago." Sarah took a deep breath, reminding herself that humanity's admission to the Galactic Concordat hung partially on her ability to prove Earth's engineering capabilities. "With respect, Chief Engineer, our approach prioritizes survivability over efficiency." "Survivability." Zixel's crystalline surface rippled with amusement. "Our neural-linked systems achieve 99.99% uptime. There is no need for backups." He practically spat the last word. The Pioneer had been Earth's pride when it launched 5 years ago. Now, docked alongside the sleek vessels of the Concordat fleet, its utilitarian design stood out like a wrench in a jewelry box. But Sarah knew better than most that beauty and function weren't always the same thing. Perhaps a demonstration would be more convincing than a presentation, Sarah suggested, pulling up the simulation sheet prepared. "This is based on actual combat data from—" A klaxon cut through the air, its urgent wail drawing everyone's attention to the nearest display panel. Sarah's universal translator quickly converted the flowing script. "Containment. Failure. Experimental Waypons Lab 12. All personnel, evacuate immediately," an automated voice announced. "Quantum cascade failure imminent. Neural network connectivity compromised." Sarah watched as panic spread across the assembled Concordat engineers. Their neural implants, the technology they relied on for everything from communications to basic ship control, were failing, leaving them cut off from their systems. Without hesitation, she sprinted to the nearest emergency terminal, her fingers flying over the physical controls that the Concordat considered obsolete. The bay's containment shields snapped into place just as a wave of quantum distortion rolled through the station, causing the neural-linked systems to flicker and die. "Manual override engage," Sarah announced, her voice steady as she worked. "Rerouting emergency power through the backup grid, initiating physical containment protocols." The Concordat engineers watched in stunned silence as she coordinated with her human crew members, who were already moving to secure critical systems, while the station's primary systems remained paralyzed by the cascade failure. The primitive backup controls allowed the humans to maintain essential functions. "Impossible," Zixel whispered, his crystalline form clouded with disbelief. "You're operating without neural linkage." "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways," Sarah replied, her fingers dancing across another control panel. "Especially when everything else fails." The crisis passed in minutes, contained by the very systems the Concordat had dismissed as obsolete. As emergency teams arrived to assess the damage, Sarah found herself the center of attention. But the look she received now carried something new: respect. "Perhaps," Zixel said slowly, his colors shifting to a more contemplative hue, "we have been hasty in our assessment of human engineering principles." Sarah nodded, hiding her satisfaction. "The universe is vast and unpredictable, Chief Engineer. In our experience, it's better to have options when things go wrong, because they always do." That evening, as she reviewed the upgrade proposals for the Pioneer, Sarah made no moves to eliminate the backup systems or manual controls. Instead, she began sketching out ways to integrate Concordat technology with human reliability engineering, because sometimes the best way forward wasn't about choosing between the old and the new. It was about finding the strength in both. The incident had opened a door, But Sarah knew this was just the beginning. The real challenge would be proving that humanity's approach to engineering wasn't just viable, but vital to the future of space exploration. As she worked late into the night, the stars visible through the bay's viewport seemed to twinkle with possibility, promising adventures yet to come. Proving ground. 2 months after the quantum cascade incident, the ESS Pioneer hung in space like a compromise made metal. Its hull now bore the distinctive iridescent sheen of concordat alloys, but beneath that surface, Sarah had insisted on maintaining the robust human engineering that had proven its worth. Final systems check complete, Sarah reported from her station on the Pioneer's bridge. The hybrid control system she designed allowed both neural interface and manual operation, though most of the concordat observers still refused to touch the physical controls. Captain Maya Rodriguez, a veteran of Earth's Space Force, nodded from the command chair. "Take us out, Helm. Nice and easy." The Pioneer's first real test flight since its upgrade had drawn an audience. 3 concordat vessels maintained formation nearby, their crews watching with what Sarah imagined was a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Approaching test coordinates, the helmsman announced, "Ready to begin maneuver series." A sudden burst of static cut through the bridge speakers. "Emergency distress signal detected," the communications officer reported. "It's the Proxima Research Station. They're reporting some kind of gravitational anomaly." Captain Rodriguez straightened in her chair. "How far?" 2 light minutes. Concordat vessels are already responding." "Plot an intercept course," Rodriguez ordered. "Dr. Chen, I hope those upgrades are ready for field testing." The Pioneer's new engines thrummed to life, pushing the ship toward the coordinates. They arrived to find the research station caught in what looked like a tear in space itself, a swirling vortex of gravitational forces that was slowly pulling the structure apart. Concordat vessels attempting gravitational stabilization. Tactical reported. No effect. Their fields can't get a lock on the anomaly's frequency. Sarah's mind raced as she studied the sensor readings. The Concordat ships were using their advanced technology to try to counter the anomaly directly, but the gravitational distortions were too chaotic, too unpredictable. "Captain," Sarah called out, "I have an idea, but you're not going to like it." Rodriguez turned to her. "Talk to me." "We still have those old-style magnetic grapples installed. If we can get close enough to attach them to the station's structural hardpoints, we might be able to counter the gravitational pull mechanically." "That's insane," one of the Concordat observers protested. "You'll be torn apart." "Not if we use the Concordat's phase shields to create a bubble of stable space around us," Sarah countered. "We don't need to stop the anomaly. We just need to buy enough time to evacuate the station." Rodriguez studied the tactical display for a long moment. "How close do we need to get?" "Too close," Sarah admitted. "But the Pioneer's reinforced structure can handle it. This is exactly the kind of situation we designed her for." The captain nodded. "Do it." What followed was a testament to the marriage of human determination and alien technology. The Pioneer edged closer to the dying station, its hybrid shields straining against forces that threatened to tear reality itself apart. Sarah's fingers flew over both neural interfaces and physical controls, making constant adjustments as they deployed the grapples. "Contact," she announced as the magnetic locks engage. "Beginning stabilization sequence." The Pioneer's engines roared, fighting against the gravitational pull. Warnings blared as structural stress approached critical levels, but the redundant systems held. On the main viewer, they watched as Concordat evacuation shuttles took advantage of the temporary stability, rushing to rescue the station's crew. "Last shuttle clear," Tactical reported after what felt like hours. "Station structural integrity at 12% and falling." "Release grapples," Rodriguez ordered. "Get us out of here." The Pioneer broke free just as the station finally collapsed, the anomaly collapsing with it in a spectacular flash of light. As damage reports began coming in, Sarah noticed the Concordat observers studying their readings with unprecedented interest. "Your ship," one of them said slowly, should not have survived that. The stresses we recorded exceeded design tolerances by several orders of magnitude. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. That's why we build in margins for error. Space doesn't care about design tolerances. It only cares about whether you survive or not. The Concordat has much to learn from human engineering principles, another observer admitted, perhaps more than we realized. As repair crews began their work, Sarah caught Captain Rodriguez's eye and saw her own pride reflected there. The Pioneer wasn't the most advanced ship in space, but today it had proven something important. Sometimes the best solutions came not from choosing between old and new, but from finding ways to make them work together. And this was just the beginning. The Pioneer's success with the gravitational anomaly had earned humanity a new level of respect within the Concordat. Over the next few weeks, Sarah found herself overwhelmed with requests to consult on integration projects, as more alien engineers began to see the value in redundant systems and manual backups. But everything changed on what should have been a routine patrol along the outer rim. Multiple contacts emerging from hyperspace, Tactical announced, breaking the bridge's quiet monotony. Configuration unknown, not matching any Concordat signatures. Captain Rodriguez leaned forward in her chair. "Show me." The main display lit up with images that made Sarah's blood run cold. The vessels looked almost organic, their hulls rippling with patterns of light that seemed to defy physics. There were 5 of them, each larger than any Concordat capital ship she'd ever seen. "They're broadcasting," communications reported. "Universal translator is having difficulties. Partial message only. Submit or be unmade." Concordat Defense Fleet responding. Tactical added. 3 battle groups entering the system. Sarah watched as the Concordat's finest ships moved to engage the intruders. Their neural-linked weapons systems fired in perfect synchronization, a devastating barrage that should have overwhelmed any known defense. The energy weapons passed straight through the alien vessels as if they weren't there. "That's impossible," one of the Concordat observers whispered. Their phase shifted somehow, but at a level we've never seen. The alien response was devastating. Beams of writhing energy lashed out, bypassing the Concordat's advanced shields completely. Ships began dying, their neural networks overloaded by whatever strange technology the invaders were using. "They're targeting the neural interfaces directly," Sarah realized, studying the sensor data. The Concordat crews can't even control their ships anymore. "Pioneer, fall back to Rally Point Delta," came the order from Concordat Command. "All vessels with manual control capabilities, disengage immediately." Rodriguez shook her head. "We're the only ship in range with both the firepower and the ability to fight without neural links. If we retreat, those colony ships won't stand a chance." "Captain," Sarah interrupted, an idea forming. "Remember how we used the magnetic grapples with the phase shields? What if we could do something similar here?" "Explain." "These aliens are operating on a different phase state, right? But they still have to exist somewhere in normal space. If we could force them back into our reality. Like using the grapples to create a point of reference," Rodriguez finished. "But we'd have to get much closer than last time." Sarah nodded grimly. "And we'd need to modify the Concordat weapons to work through whatever connection we establish. I can do it, but we'll have to do it manually while under fire," Rodriguez concluded. She studied the tactical display for a moment, watching as another Concordat vessel fell silent. "How long?" 20 minutes to modify the weapons. Maybe another 10 to calibrate the phase shields." A new explosion lit up the display. "You have 15. Make it work." What followed was the most intense engineering challenge of Sarah's life. Working with both human and Concordat systems, she jury-rigged a solution that would have horrified any proper engineer from either species. The Pioneer's magnetic grapples were never designed to channel weapon energy, and the phase shields weren't meant to operate in the configuration she was forcing them into. "Modifications complete," she reported finally, her hands shaking slightly from the strain. "But Captain, this is completely untested. If I'm wrong about the phase harmonics, then we'll be just as dead as if we'd done nothing. Rodriguez finished. Helm, bring us in. Target the nearest hostile. The Pioneer moved with purpose, closing the distance to the alien vessels. Around them, the remaining Concordat ships provided what cover they could, though most were operating on emergency backup systems only. In range, Tactical announced. Grapples ready. Do it, Rodriguez ordered. The magnetic grapples lashed out, seemingly passing through the alien vessel. But Sarah's sensors showed contact at a quantum level. The phase shields activated, creating a tunnel of normalized space between the ships. Energy weapons, fire. The Pioneer's modified weapons blazed through the quantum tunnel. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the alien ship's phase field collapsed, bringing it fully into normal space. The follow-up barrage from the surviving Concordat vessels tore it apart. Send targeting data to all Concordat ships, Rodriguez commanded. Show them where to hit. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for generations to come. The Pioneer moved from target to target, creating windows of vulnerability that the more powerful Concordat weapons could exploit. It wasn't elegant or efficient, but it worked. Adaptation. In the battle's aftermath, the Pioneer's bridge was crowded with an unusual mix of human and Concordat engineers. Holographic displays showed the scattered remains of the alien vessels, while damage reports scrolled across auxiliary screens. The phase shift technology they used, Sarah explained, highlighting sections of the sensor data. It wasn't just advanced. It was operating on principles we've never seen before. But that same sophistication made it vulnerable to our more direct approach. Chief Engineer Zixel, who had arrived with the relief fleet, studied the readings with his crystalline form shifting through shades of deep blue. You created a quantum anchor point using magnetic grapples. The concept is inelegant, yet undeniably effective. Sometimes inelegant is exactly what you need, Sarah replied. The universe doesn't care about elegant. It cares about what works. The data from the battle had sparked a revolution in Concordat engineering circles. Ships were being retrofitted with manual backup systems, and there was serious discussion about implementing physical failsafes for critical systems. We've received word from the Concordat High Council, Captain Rodriguez announced, entering the bridge. They want us to lead a joint task force. Apparently, these weren't isolated attacks. Similar vessels have been spotted in 3 other sectors. Sarah felt a mix of pride and apprehension. The modification we made to the Pioneer systems was improvised at best. We'll need something more sustainable for a prolonged campaign. That's why we're here. A new voice joined the conversation. A tall, ethereal figure glided onto the bridge. Admiral Nexus, one of the Concordat's leading military strategists. Your solution may have been unconventional, but it worked. Now we need to refine it, make it reproducible. What followed was an unprecedented collaboration. The Pioneer became a floating laboratory where human and Concordat engineers worked side by side, combining their different approaches to solve problems neither could handle alone. Sarah found herself working closely with Zixel, who had transformed from one of her harshest critics into her strongest advocate. Together, they developed a new class of hybrid weapons system that combined Concordat's phase manipulation technology with human-style redundancies and manual controls. The key was stopping trying to force one approach to dominate the other, Sarah explained during one late-night working session. These systems don't just coexist, they complement each other. The Concordat's neural interfaces provide speed and precision, while our manual backups ensure resilience. Like your Earth concept of symbiosis, Zixel observed, his crystalline form glowing with what Sarah had learned was excitement. 2 different organisms working together to become something greater than either could be alone. The breakthrough came 3 weeks into the project. They had managed to miniaturize the quantum anchor technology, making it possible to mount it on smaller vessels. More importantly, they had found a way to make it work with the Concordat's more advanced targeting systems. Test firing sequence complete, Sarah announced, reviewing the results of their latest trial. Penetration rate at 97% against simulated phase-shifted targets. Power consumption within acceptable parameters. And the manual override systems. Admiral Nexus inquired. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Fully functional. We can switch from neural to manual control in under 2 seconds. More importantly, the system can operate at 80% efficiency even with total neural network failure. The Admiral's normally impassive features showed a hint of satisfaction. The Council will be pleased. We're already implementing these modifications across the fleet. The Pioneer's design is becoming the template for a new generation of Concordat vessels. Not bad for a primitive backup system, Rodriguez commented dryly. The joke drew actual laughter from the Concordat officers, something that would have been unthinkable just months ago. The crisis had done more than just prove the value of human engineering. It had broken down barriers that had seemed insurmountable. As Sarah watched human and Concordat crews working together seamlessly, she realized they had created something more important than just new technology. They had forged a true partnership, one based on mutual respect and the recognition that different approaches could make each other stronger. Evolution. 6 months after the first attack, the Pioneer led a fleet unlike anything the Galaxy had ever seen. Concordat vessels now sported clearly visible manual control stations, while Earth ships gleamed with neural interface nodes. Each represented a perfect fusion of both civilizations' technologies. And just in time. Multiple phase signatures detected, Tactical announced. Configuration matches our previous encounters, but bigger. Much bigger. The main display showed what they were up against. A massive fleet of the alien vessels, at least 30 strong, with what appeared to be a mothership at their center. The mothership alone was larger than any artificial structure Sarah had ever seen. They're not trying to hide anymore, Rodriguez observed grimly. This is their main force. All ships reporting ready, communications reported. Concordat and Earth vessels showing green across the board. Sarah checked her own readings. The Pioneer's hybrid systems were functioning perfectly, the culmination of months of refinement and testing. Every ship in their fleet now carried some version of the quantum anchor technology, along with the ability to switch seamlessly between neural and manual control. Message from the enemy fleet, communications announced. Text only, your adaptations are impressive but futile. Submit or face extinction. Admiral Nexus, who had made the Pioneer his flagship for this operation, stepped forward. Send our response. We choose neither. The battle began with a display of coordination that would have been impossible just months ago. Earth ships moved in perfect formation with their Concordat counterparts, their crews switching effortlessly between neural and manual control as the situation demanded. The alien vessels tried their phase shift technology, but this time the fleet was ready. Quantum anchors locked on from multiple vectors, while modified weapon systems struck with devastating precision. The first wave of enemy ships fell quickly, but the mothership was something else entirely. Energy spike. Sarah called out as the massive vessel began to pulse with an otherworldly light. They're attempting some kind of large-scale phase shift. The effect was immediate and devastating. Space itself seemed to ripple around them, and Sarah watched in horror as several ships began to lose cohesion, their very atoms being pulled apart by the distortion. They're trying to phase shift the entire sector, she realized, her mind racing. Our anchors can't counter something this big. Suggestions? Rodriguez demanded, her hands flying over manual controls as the Pioneer's neural interface flickered. Sarah studied the readings, her heart pounding. The mothership's power output was astronomical, but there was something familiar about the energy pattern. It reminded her of the research station, she breathed. Captain, it's the same principle as the gravitational anomaly, just on a massive scale. If we could adapt our solution from then, we'd need every ship in the fleet to work together, Zixel added, catching her meaning. The power requirements alone. We don't have a choice, Sarah insisted. If that phase shift completes, this entire sector of space will be wiped from existence. Admiral Nexus made the decision instantly. Give the order. All ships, coordinate through the Pioneer. What followed was either brilliant engineering or pure insanity. Possibly both. Every ship in the fleet linked their systems together, creating a vast network of quantum anchors and phase shields. The Pioneer, with its unique hybrid systems, served as the coordination point. On my mark, Sarah called out, her fingers dancing across both neural and manual interfaces. 3, 2, 1. Now. The combined power of the fleet surged through the network they'd created. Instead of fighting the phase shift directly, they used it, creating a feedback loop that turned the mothership's own power against it. Space itself seemed to scream as two opposing forces fought for dominance. Sarah's displays showed impossible readings as reality itself buckled under the strain. Warning klaxons blared as systems throughout the ship approached critical levels. And then, suddenly, it was over. The mothership's phase shift collapsed catastrophically, taking the rest of the alien fleet with it. Where there had been an armada of advanced vessels, there was now only debris scattered across normal space. As damage reports began coming in, Sarah became aware of something extraordinary. The bridge crew, both human and Concordat, were cheering together. She saw Rodriguez exchange a warrior's salute with Admiral Nexus, while Zixel's crystalline form blazed with colors she'd never seen before. Engineering principles aside, the Admiral said later, during the formal victory celebration, what truly defeated our enemy was something they couldn't comprehend. The strength that comes from embracing different approaches rather than dismissing them. Sarah looked around the room, seeing humans and aliens working together as equals, and smiled. They had started with a simple engineering disagreement and ended up proving something far more important, that the best solution to any problem often lay not in choosing between different paths, but in finding ways to walk them all. The Pioneer had begun as an example of primitive human engineering. It had evolved into something far more, a symbol of what was possible when different civilizations chose to learn from each other rather than look down on their differences. And that, Sarah realized, was the greatest engineering achievement of all.